Larry, Fort Worth Memories Museum and Groups. Let me see if I can get us signed in here. Shows I'm live, but I can't find it. Nope, there I am. Okay, so today is Tuesday, the 13th day of May. Gonna be another beautiful day. Tuesday, May 13th. I'm going to tell everybody good morning. And we're going to share it to the internet and memories, messages, live videos, and others. Okay. George is in, Brittany's in, Bill's in, Larry's in. Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful day today. Another one. Don't know of anything. The Rangers started a homestand last night against somebody. Did they win, or how do we know if they won or not? Texas Rangers baseball. They won 2-1. So their record now is 21-21. Well, the Rockies are playing terrible. They've won 7 and lost 34. So they play today again against the Rockies at Arlington at 7:05. Well, our president is swinging through the Middle Eastern countries. That's taking a big chance, I would think. South Fort Worth shooting leaves 1 dead. Where'd that happen? 4400 Cole Street. I don't believe I know where Cole Street is. Another Fort Worth man was arrested after attacking his mother with a machete. Jesus Christ. Well, there's sure a lot of people taking a pot shot at the new Pope. Now Nancy Pelosi said his oldest brother doubles down on awfully drunk Nancy Pelosi post. Oh, so he's the one attacking her. That's good. So I guess we got all of our candidates, newly elected folks, sworn in yesterday at City Hall. So I started a post yesterday, and I'll show you what it looks like. And I tagged all the mayor and city council except for that one race that's not decided yet. I tagged all of our elected officials, not the county, just the city council and mayor. And so you can talk about whatever, but you need to be civil and not being a bully or anything like that. Let me see here. But I've got them tagged, and they're gonna look at them. We've got to get people though announcing. I can't even find it. My allergies are back to. Well, I can't find it. I'm going to see if somebody's. There's what it looks like. It says attention members. It's hard to see it, isn't it? Anyway, so it says this post is for you to discuss issues that you're concerned with. Remember, keep it Fort Worth or Tarrant County, and keep all comments civil, no cussing or bullying. I will forward these to our civic leaders. But I tagged Michael Crane, Chris Nettles, Elizabeth Beck, Carlos Flores, Maddie, Jeanette Martinez, Charles Lauersdorf, Deborah Peoples, Macy Hill, and Alan Blaylock. That one race is in a runoff, so I'll tag them. But we need to keep that thing going. And you've got a voice. We're 131,000 going on, 131,200 active members. If we get enough awareness, enough people going on there making comments, there's a lot of people talking about infrastructure, redistricting. So it's an outlet for you to talk about what affects you. I even put in there, who is responsible for the roads? I had a city council member tell me one time, because I called that city council member and I said, hey, on Interstate 30 out there about Ridgemar Mall, on the side heading west, there's a sofa. It's up against that retaining wall, and that city councilman did take care of it, but they told me, he or she told me, that stuff on the roads out there is TxDOT. So we need to figure out who's really responsible for what. But with this post, if we get enough people involved in it, you've got a strong voice, and they'll listen. Believe me. I think we need to put the pressure on about all this development. Everything's development. Some of these roads are so bad. I mean, really, they don't even patch them good. So we need to let them know, y'all, they do work for us. So, Mayor and City Council, we need to get on the ball. That My Fort Worth app, that I've called it a bunch, messaged it. I've been told we've only got one pothole crew. Well, we need to cut down on some of this dang development and all this showing glass, this mirrors and glass and smoke, and get back to fixing the roads that we drive on. Y'all probably don't drive on the same roads we do. And I'm not going to stop talking about it until we get somebody moving on it. Y'all need to be more transparent. Tell us what's going on with these roads. One of y'all needs to come out. I know you've all got Facebook groups. Michael Crane, Carlos Flores, everybody, all of you have a Facebook page. Why don't you go on this? You're all on my group too, or our group. Why don't you go on this particular post and say, hey, here's what we're doing, here's what we got in works, or whatever. We want some transparency. Where's the phone? So it's up to us to let them know what we're thinking. They can't read our minds. If we don't complain about something, they think everything's hunky-dory. They can keep on with this mass development project. Good morning, Cleveland. That screen's going bad. I need to get new phones. Anyway, so y'all go on that post and let's let them know what we're talking about. She's writing, so I will see what y'all are saying. James is in, Bill's in, Brittany. That's right, Brittany. It doesn't matter who it is, the government, big business, whoever's got the power, they grease the wheel that squeaks the loudest, and our wheels are not squeaking. Don't be passive. All you got to do is just say what you believe. Dub's in. Good morning. But I mean, seriously, our roads, they're worse than terrible. Our schools are threatened to be taken over by the state. The infrastructure's falling apart. And what are we doing? We're announcing new development, new buildings. We built so many apartments in the last 4 or 5 years. We must be the apartment capital of the world. Okay, hold on. Here's Cleveland. Larry, Fort Worth was nicknamed Queen City by who? That's by Texas and Pacific. All of their brochures, they were called Queen City of the Prairies. Texas and Pacific Railroad started that. And they really started doing that advertising. Well, Bill, you need to write on there, find that post and start saying, you got a loud voice. Dub, you too. Put it on that post. Because I've tagged all the mayor and city council except for the one runoff race. I'll put y'all's name on that post, and that way you can weigh in. Okay, so what is y'all's? It's a 2-part deal, okay? Well, the railroad was Connie's in. The railroad is what kept us from being a tumbleweed city. Of course, there was the Panic of 1873. That was all worldwide. That was kind of like a depression, but it wasn't to that magnitude. But in Fort Worth, our population dipped down to 850 is what the printed version is. I think it's more like 400. There was nothing going on here. There was no source of revenue with the exception of finding the prostitutes on sometimes a bi-monthly rate, or the issuance of saloon licenses. In 1876, by October or November, I'm trying to pull it up on the Democrat, by November of 1876, the city had collected $4,000 in saloon licensing. So what do we have back then? We had a lot of gambling, prostitution, drinking, the whole deal. So what? Okay, so you're talking about Reverend J. Morgan Wells. Well, that guy was something else, wasn't he? I didn't know anybody even knew about him. Okay, so the First Baptist Church has had its share of infamous pastors, notably J. Frank Norris in 1909, and J. Morgan Wells in 1870s, 80s. So Pastor Wells, the congregation of First Baptist at that time, 1876, was a few hundred people, 400 or 500 people. Their church location was right on the edge of Hell's Half Acre. And Mr. Wells, Pastor Wells, wanted that to change. So he was flamboyant, just like J. Frank Norris. And he said, by golly, we're going to raise the money and we're going to build us a new church, and it's going to be at 3rd and Taylor. So I don't know what his goal was or how it was posted. I've never been able to find that out. But it was going to take tens of thousands of dollars. Anyway, the congregation did not respond well. They collected about $1,500. Some reports $2,000. Well, there's no way they could build the church that Pastor Wells was talking about. So he takes it on himself to go down to the acre and approaches the gamblers, the saloon owners, all of the vices, madams, the prostitutes. This guy goes out and collects $60,000. 60. Somebody just messaged me. I'm not going to talk about that. He goes out and gets $65,000, in fact, builds a church and hangs on there. And then in 1909, J. Frank Norris, who was pastoring over in Dallas, gets invited to come to First Baptist. Now this guy is really flamboyant. At one time, J. Frank Norris had the largest congregation in the United States. He had a church here and a church in Detroit, Michigan. And in the 1920s, early 20s, when airplanes were in its infancy, Norris went every week to Detroit and gave a sermon, stayed overnight, taught a Sunday school class. Yes, he was charged with arson. They burned his church and his house in the same year. In fact, he lived over there off Stadium, somewhere not too far from where the TCU Stadium is. He had a 2-story house, and so the story goes, when he got home, the house is fully engulfed in flames. He goes in and goes up to the 2nd floor and knocks the window out and throws his son to waiting people down below. And I'm not sure if it was fire people or just other people that lived in the neighborhood. And that, yeah, I'm getting to it, George. That son was named George Norris. I think that was his name. And he was the pastor at Gideon Baptist Church. George wants to know, did he shoot a man? He shot D.E. Chips. So here's the way all of that came about. Norris's church was downtown. Most all the churches were downtown. And the powers that be in the city, same problem that we have today, the property tax value. Hold on, in fact, I've got something that nobody else has got. If I brought it with me. about it. This thing has survived all kinds of stuff. J. Frank Norris had this printed up, and I'm going to see if it's got a date on it. It doesn't, but it says extra, extra, extra. Tax stealing and vote buying found at City Hall. Vote buying deal may amount to $500,000. Grand jury investigation urged. The news had been suppressed and utility counsel won't defend themselves. And so he lists all of the businesses or houses, the property. And here's a good, William J. Bailey is the guy that started Greenwood and Mount Olivet. His original tax was $7,727.88. That tax was reduced to $4,000 even. Amount of reduction, $3,727.88. T&P Railroad, all of those until you get to a church. They did not lower the tax on any of the churches. In fact, they went up on them. So, Harmony at City Hall has cost the taxpayers of Fort Worth $1 million. Fellow citizens, wake up. If you're not a partner in this vote buying fraud at the City Hall, then you must expect to pay higher taxes to offset these unjust tax refunds. Talk, telephone, vote. Go to the polls, rain or shine. Talk to your neighbors. There's a lot of political people that should have had him as their campaign manager. Be sure and vote the following tickets straight. He lists the names. You can hear this on radio program KFJZ Monday 8 to 8:30 and 9 to 9:30 p.m. Mass meeting at First Baptist Church Auditorium 8 p.m. Wednesday. So J. Frank Norris took on everybody. He and a guy named Meacham, H.C. Meacham, who was the mayor of Fort Worth. Meacham Field's named after him. Amon Carter Sr.'s last wife was Minnie Meacham Carter. So Meacham had a real good friend. His name was D.E. Chipps, C-H-I-P-P-S. He had the largest lumber yard in Fort Worth. So Norris started this problem with Meacham. On one of his sermons on a Sunday, he said, I need a handful of you ladies to come down here. We're going to boycott some of these stores that are getting a good deal on taxes and we're not. And the one we're going to boycott is the mayor's store, Meacham's department store. So they picket the store. Well, Meacham is not happy about that. So Meacham finds out anybody that is in that picket that either works for him or a family member works for him, he fired him. No reason, just fired him. Well, everybody knew what it was over. Him and Norris were having a battle. Well, this lumberman, D.E. Chipps, was a big drinker. So on a Saturday at First Baptist Church office, there was the secretary, 2 TCU volunteer kids that were both football players, and J. Frank Norris. The phone rings about 11 o'clock in the morning, and the secretary answers it, said, Reverend Norris, telephone. He answers it, and it is a inebriated D.E. Chipps. He says, you better leave my friend H.C. Meacham alone, and yada, 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 yada. So Norris hangs up on him. He calls back, and he says, if you hang up again, I'm coming over. They hung up again. Well, at noon, the secretary and the two TCU students were leaving. That was their duty, to be there till noon. And one of these TCU kids that was from Alpine, Texas, he said, Reverend Norris, I'm worried about you. You need to leave with us. He said, well, I can't do that. I'm working on Sunday's sermon. He said, well, hold on. My daddy gave me a pistol in case I needed it. Let me go out to my vehicle. So we went out there and got a gun. Now that gun is currently in Waco at the Texas Rangers Museum. But this year the contract expires with the family of Norris, who several of them are on our group, are going to not renew that contract to have it on loan, but going to bring it to us. It'll be on display here. So the young man leaves Norris a gun. They leave. So the rest of the story, there's only one version, because D.E. Chips, the lumberman, is now dead. And so it's all if they believe the Reverend or not. Well, they don't believe the Reverend. He was very controversial. He would talk with the Klan. It didn't matter. There was no boundaries for J. Frank Norris. So they moved the trial to Austin. I have the trial photos. I have the transcript. It was in 1927 when they moved the trial. They acquitted Norris. Found him self-defense. Of course, like I say, there was no other version of the story, because the other person that was present is now dead. So a lot of people want to know about J. Frank Norris, and I happen to be an expert. As a youngster, his father was an alcoholic. They were sharecroppers. His daddy would get drunk and he would borrow money from old saloon keepers. So he owed some money to a guy that loaned him some money, kind of like a loan shark. And he couldn't pay. So Norris's father is in the field working it one Tuesday afternoon. There was a road, a dirt road. No, he only shot one man. And yeah, I can guarantee you there's nobody ever went with J. Frank Norris's wife. There's no infidelity there. Okay, so J. Frank Norris's daddy is working one field. There's a dirt road. J. Frank is 12 years old. He's working on that side of the road. Here come these two muscle men, a job I used to do, two collectors, and they beat his daddy almost to death. Well, J. Frank, kid didn't weigh 100 pounds, runs across the dirt road and tackles these two guys, throws his body into him. They beat him merciless. The doctors told Frank's mother, this boy will never walk again. She said he's going to do way more than walk. For about a 4.5 year period, she read him the Bible cover to cover every day for sometimes 10 hours a day, sometimes 4 or 5 hours a day, until J. Frank Norris could memorize the Bible. So First Baptist, and there's many other stories, many other versions. I've got 2 Bibles here in the museum that were given to J. Frank by that were family members that are in our group. One myth, everybody says J. Frank Norris was the minister for the Ku Klux Klan. That's false. He did talk with the Klan. They wanted to build a hospital similar to what now is the Masons burn unit down in Galveston. Norris wanted anything to help people. He was interested, but he did not go through with it. They said the Klan would drop flowers on the pulpit. They did that with every church in Fort Worth. They were hooded and robed. Every church except Catholics and minority churches. All the rest of them got a visit from the Klan every Sunday. The minister that was associated with the Klan, Southside Baptist, his name was Bloodworth. His wife instigated the first Klan march anywhere for the Klan wives and children. They did it right here in Fort Worth, Texas. So J. Frank Norris is, he's no angel, okay? He declared that when they burned his church and they burned his house, he walked into Amon Carter's office, because Amon was running the city, and he said, I declare the wrath of God on everybody involved with it. You can start researching it. There were several people that lost their lives in unusual ways. But yeah, he was very controversial. He was only charged with the murder one time. He stood trial. They moved the trial to Austin. J. Frank had 3 very good Fort Worth lawyers. The district attorney's office traveled to Austin and prosecuted him, and they lost. So when J. Frank, the church population or church members in 1908, 1907 had started shrinking. There was a series of ministers from between Wells and Norris. There was 3 or 4 different ministers. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know if they were good or bad or indifferent, but they didn't excite the crowd. So they called J. Frank Norris and invited him over. The elders of the church, they came to an agreement. So that first Sunday, on Monday of that week, let me back y'all up now. This is 1909. One of the big things that Fort Worth and Dallas did was had a baseball game. Fort Worth had lost the last 3 or 4. They were getting their pants beat off. So when J. Frank, on that Monday morning of the first week, he gets a huge banner to stretch across the street. It said, Fort Worth is going to win this year's baseball game, and if you want to find out why, come to church on Sunday. 3,000 people overnight. When they burned his church and his house in the same night, if y'all know, if you're going through downtown to go out to 287 or whatever, those soccer fields right there, J. Frank had contacted Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus and had tents put up. Temporary church. 50,000 people first Sunday. This guy was he could get your attention. There's many stories written about him. One of the books is God's Rascal, J. Frank Norris. A story that I kind of like, and I have nothing against religion. I'm as close to God, I think, as anybody that's listening to me. So the Southern Baptist Convention hired him, or elected him, to be the president. Well, they didn't like that idea too much, because one of his first duties, or one of his first priorities, was to find out which one of the ministers, pastors at Baptist churches in Texas was either having an affair or drink or whatever. They kicked him out of that position pretty dang quick. So he was truly a man of God. He would have never cheated on his wife. In fact, I've got some letters that were between two cousins, and the one lady says, "I'm scared to come back to Fort Worth," and the other one says, "Why?" And she says, "Because I'm thinking about divorcing my husband, and I'm worried because I know what what Frank thinks about divorce. He didn't believe in it, nor do I." So yeah, but he was really a motivator. I think he did a lot of great stuff. He was not a Klan preacher. But I guarantee you, he built First Baptist up to be the strongest church in the country, or at least in the state. And he had the largest congregation in the country for about 13 months. And he became the minister in 1909 and held that position till he died. He was kind of like J. Edgar Hoover. Okay, so no, he did not shoot a man that was going with his wife. You can visualize a road you're going down, and there's no derogatory. Both sides of the road. In fact, when he could not get any satisfaction from city leaders, Amon G. Carter and others, about the houses of prostitution, well, he figured that deal out. One Sunday, he said, I need about 40 of you ladies down here on Friday, about 7 or 8 at night. We're going to walk down the street. First Baptist was downtown, 3rd and Taylor. They walked to Hell's Half Acre, which was just a few blocks. So they would go out in front of the prostitution houses, and they'd say, "Okay, Larry O'Neill, Maria's going to know where you're going on this Friday evening." Well, they shut down the house of prostitution overnight. A lot of people say that the reason Hell's Half Acre, that's the worst thing that he did. Homer and Omer. That was the worst, in my opinion. They were also very controversial, and not in a good way. I'll tell you a little story about Homer and Omer. That's the people he put in charge. Homer and Omer Ritchie. My grandmother was the assistant chief operator of Southwestern Bell Telephone, which is also downtown. Homer and Omer Ritchie's sister worked for the telephone company. She would come in late, have alcohol on her breath, so my grandmother told her immediate boss, Mrs. Spell, she said, "What are you going to do about this Ritchie lady?" And my grandmother said, "I'm going to give her one more chance. I'm going to go down to the church on Sunday and talk to her brothers and see if they can't straighten her out, and she's a good operator." So my grandmother told me, and she told me this when I was young, she said, "So I waited till I knew the sermon had to be pretty close to being over, although sometimes they would carry it on for 30 or 40 extra minutes." She walks in, barely gets in, and whichever one, Homer or Omer, said, "Deacons, lock the doors." And then they proceeded to tell the congregation, "We've talked to the Lord, and He said we need to be driving new Fords from Mr. Kent." At that time, Frank Kent was a Ford dealer. My grandmother said, "It cost me $50 just to get the hell out of there." And so I said, "So what'd you do?" She said, "Well, I gave her another warning. She came in with alcohol on her breath, and she fired her." So there's lots of stories about Homer and Omer Ritchie. Lots of stories. Drinking, associating with prostitutes. So First Baptist has a colorful past, but J. Frank Norris, he was something else. There's only 2 people in Fort Worth that Amon G. Carter Sr. was maybe not scared of, but scared to go up against J. Frank Norris and William Madison Gooseneck Bill McDonald. Those two people he feared. In fact, when the 1936 Frontier Centennial that Amon put together, about 2 months before it opened, because Sally Rand and her nude review they weren't nude dancers, they had flesh-colored outfits on. Amon went and saw Mr. Norris at the church, and he said, Reverend, could the city pay for you a 3-week vacation while we have this? We know what your stance is on public nudity. And he said, he thought about it a minute, and he said, Amon, I'll take a 3-week vacation and go to my other church. But he said, the city's not going to pay for anything. Lower my damn taxes. No, that's not associated with the Ritchie brothers. No. Ritchie Auction, no. Homer and Homer Ritchie. Yeah, they were something. Hey, Gene Broadway. So, that's today's history lesson. Let's do the sponsors. Thank you, Cleburne. Y'all are coming up with some good ones. Let's talk about the Silver Sisters. Sandy eats with us almost every Saturday. They are a service performing group. They do a great job. I don't know where we're eating yet. Let me find. Yes, we are a worldwide group. We have members in 141 countries, active members. Winstead Paint and Body, they are on White Settlement Road, just a block west of Roberts Cutoff. Okay, there's the Stripling's Honor Roll plaque. So we've got Memorial Day coming up. There is a link that I will share with y'all. There was 88 employees that worked at Stripling's during World War II that worked at Stripling's, and there's some of their names. And all of them came back with the exception of one. One guy lost his life. You can see there's several of the Striplings on there. W.C. Stripling Jr., W.C. Stripling III, W.K. Stripling Jr. So if you knew anybody back in the 40s during World War II that worked at Stripling's and that went to the war, their name is on that bronze plaque. That's in the museum. Weighs 220 pounds. It's made out of solid bronze. Hung in Stripling's department store downtown from 1947 to 1977. Scott is our IT guru. He can build you a website or consultation, anything. Alpha Design and Build, that's Lance Sanders. They are remodelers. They do commercial and residential. They'll remodel something for you, or they'll add a second story to it. Blue Mountain Cafes, all of them, all 5 locations are members and sponsors of our group, and they're all members too. Stinger's Sports Bar is out in Hazel. That's also owned by Blue Mountain Cafes. They do a great job. That's in the location that used to be Mark Dean's Barbecue for all of you Hazel folks. Fort Worth Florist, Jeanette and her team, they're ready, willing, and able to take care of your flower needs. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call them. Dickie Carr's nephew is, Richard Carr's nephew is Dickie Carr. He's in his 30s. I've interviewed him several times. His company is called Grateful for Your Trees. They do everything to do with trees. They'll trim it, cut it down. Hell, they'll cut it down and make firewood out of it. G2 Garage, White Settlement area. Chris and his team over there have taken care of a lot of our members' vehicles. So if you're in the White Settlement area or Fort Worth, whatever, and you need your vehicle serviced or taken care of, go see G2 Garage. Phelps Family Auto Care, they're in the Burleson area. Boy, they've got a great reputation. Every time I post their deals, somebody sends me a message and said, yeah, we use them. Stroud Auto Supply, Danny Stroud and his wife, they are second generation, because I know I bought parts there when I was 15 years old for my 55 Chevy, and Danny Stroud he was the same age as me. So he might have been working there, but he didn't own it, his dad did. Schwartz and Hanson, architects, very active in the bike giveaway. Long-time sponsors. Rex's Bar and Grill, that is the premier sports bar, maybe in the state, if not. It looks like it belongs in Vegas. You ought to just go over and look at it. In fact, we're going to have our birthday party there. Well, I always forget that, Brittany. July 19th, I think, is the date. 19th or 29th. Tri-State Dent. Jason and his crew, they come to you. They'll work with you on your deductible if they can. Just depends on the damage and how much your deductible is. They do hail damage, door dings, minor dents. They do all of it. Casey Kroll and his group, they do Medicare and Medicaid. Great people, very knowledgeable. Raines Plumbing, they're a family-owned plumbing business. Every time one of our members use them, they give me a great review. Charlie Guerin, Railhead Barbecue, he's our state representative. He's also on the board at my giveaway, Larry's Kids, and very active in it. Optimist Club of Fort Worth, Jeff Norman runs that particular one. There's several right here in Fort Worth, but they're international. They donate a Christmas tree to our museum here every year, and they do lots of great stuff for youth. Old South Pancake House, same parking lot as Rex's Bar and Grill. They have two locations. The one on University is open 24/7. You can get breakfast all day or all night. The one in Burleson closes at 9 or 10 at night. Jenny Stewart, State Farm Insurance. All I ask is that you give her team a call and see if you can get your coverage less. State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, they're all great companies. Which one's going to give you the best deal? It doesn't cost you anything to make a phone call. Cross Electric, Brandon Cross. They were voted one of DFW's favorites. Manny Ramirez swears by them. K-Ranch Roofing, Jorge Hernandez. They have been our roofing sponsor for a few years. Done a lot of roofs. If you don't know if you've got hail damage from all these recent storms, high wind and hail, you can call and you'll get Bree. She is the office manager. She'll set up a time that's good for you and good for them to have one of their experts come out and take a look at it. If you got damage, they'll discuss it with you, or they'll give you a clean bill of health. Fort Worth Lumber Company, I-35, South. Any building materials, building plans, any of that, they do it all. Coburn's Catering, Steve Coburn. Coburn's opened over there on North Main in 1946. They used to have a cafeteria. I ate there in the 60s. But now they're just caterers, and you can't have too big of event, because they do the stock show every year. That's over 100,000. More than that, I bet. Dickie Carr Sand and Gravel, Pat and Richard Carr. Very active in our community. Know everybody in the community. I'm proud to call them my friends. When I made the bicycle giveaway a non-profit last year, the first check for $5,000 was written by Pat and Richard Carr. Thank y'all. Dana Lang, Dana Sells Cowtown. Real estate, very knowledgeable about Fort Worth's history, likes to drive fast cars. What can I say? Dana's a great gal. A Bird AC and Heating, that's Dub Peacock's company. He's on our live feed right now. So if you've got any issues, your unit's making a noise, you don't think it's performing right, all you gotta do is call and get one of these specialists to come out and take a look at it. What is messing up with my deal? Okay. Eric Walsh, Real Estate. Also on the board of directors at Larry's Kids. Very active. All of these board of directors that are on my board are very passionate about the bicycle giveaway. Last year we gave away 1,120 bikes to needy families. Since I started this in the 80s, this year is the 39th year, and we're real close to giving away $1 million worth of new bicycles. In fact, I've given away 19,550 to be exact in 38 years. The goal this year is 1,400, so we'll go over 20,000 bikes, and if you value them at $50, which is way low for now, maybe a little high for the 80s, it's over $1 million. Yellow Snake Horses, Brazos River Ranch. The weather is perfect. You go down Interstate 20 to Millsap, about an hour's drive. You get out of the city for one thing, get to country living, and it's different. You'll love it. You can actually see the stars at night. But anyway, get 2 hours of horseback riding for about $75. You do not have to be a seasoned or even, you can be a first-time beginner horseback riding. They work with you and you'll enjoy yourself. So please use our sponsors, support them. They help to keep this thing around, alive, as well as y'all do. Scott Sumner, all of the people that help us. But our sponsors play a big part in it. And if you know anybody that's a paint contractor, I don't know how many jobs they've lost by not being a sponsor. What does it cost? $1,500 a year. That breaks down to $125 a month. Divided by 4, what's that? $30 a week. For a possible 130,000 people. And I post their business cards or information every day, Monday through Friday, on my live morning show. Talk about them. Cheapest advertisement you can do. Yes, we have 2 members of J. Frank Norris's extended family on our group. They're both still active. I got a lot of J. Frank stuff here. He was something else. And not to be overshadowing Pastor Wells, he figured out where to go get the money. His congregation only came up with, I think it's $1,800. He said, well, heck, that won't even get close to buying the material. So in a short period of time, from what I've read from old newspapers, within about a week he gathered up $65,000 in the 1800s. And he went to the Vice, the gamblers, the houses of ill repute. And then he went to the cattle barons, he went to them. But he went out and got it. He did it on his own. There's nobody went with him. He went and got it and put it together and had the church built. Okay, it's after 8. I gotta go out here and get started. Don't forget, if you need your headlights polished or the museum's open, if you want to take a tour. Now that Rosie's back, but she's off on Tuesdays, I'm ready to do tours. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour. I prefer you call me and let me know you're coming. I don't start any tours really after lunch. Because if somebody comes at 1:30 and says you don't close till 2, well, I can't close at 2 because you can't do a tour in 20 minutes. We've got a lot of neat stuff here. The Trainmaster Control that ran the Tandy M&O Subway and the both those companies. We got all kinds of one-of-a-kind stuff. Hope y'all have a wonderful morning. Get outside. Don't do nothing else. Just sit outside and enjoy it. Man, it's something else.